Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Manager Monday. Today's our second Manager Monday, and today we're going to be talking about recruit to retain. We have various presenters today. We have Brenda Schofield from Region 5, and we have Sylvia Uralugo and Christopher Sheffield from Birdsville ISD. I am your host, Olga Escamilla, and we also have our moderator, Robin Booth, that will be joining us today. I'm going to go over some housekeeping rules. I think it looks like everyone's having been successful in connecting to audio at this time. So I'm not going to read over the audio, but if you have trouble connecting to audio, please type it in the chat pod and I will assist. Of our webinar best practices, please mute your phones at all times and type your questions in the chat pod or raise your virtual hand so we can know that you have a question. Remember to select everyone when you're posting your comments or questions, and I'll go over this shortly again. For attendance, please be sure you have access to audio because this is a requirement to receive your certificate of completion. Also, if you are sitting next to someone who has audio or who you are in the webinar with someone, please let us know, and you should be registered for the session, and we will give you credit if you are sitting in with someone. So in order to download your certificate, you'll print that from your PD Portal account, and that'll be located in your transcripts. In terms of viewing, if you're having trouble viewing the PowerPoint, you can always expand the view of your webinar screen by clicking on the double arrows. As you see, there's circle here all the way to the far right. There's two diagonal double arrows. If you click on those, that will expand your screen to full screen and you'll be able to see that better. Now again, respond to everyone in the chat pod. So if you see your chat pod, it should be in blue and open. So if you'll go down to the bottom where it says send to, you'll need to manually change that to everyone. And if you'll change that to everyone and type any questions that you may have during the presentation, we'll be glad to respond to them. Thank you. Today, we have Brenda Schofield from Region 5. She's a Director of Adult Education and Literacy, and she has loved adult education since she was 17 years old, when she first volunteered as a literacy tutor for adults with special needs. Brenda has more than 30 years of experience and is an AEL Director, and she's seen firsthand the positive impact AEL programs make in the lives of our students. So she enjoys decorating, gardening, cooking, and spending time with her family, including her young grandchildren, Ian, Logan, Olivia, and her newborn granddaughter, Gentry. Welcome, Brenda. And we also have Sylvia Uralugo, and she is a grant coordinator with 11 years of experience. She holds a bachelor's degree in education from Mexico, and she was able to transfer and evaluate her credentials in the USA in order to work as a grant coordinator director. She graduated from the University of Mexico with a major in science to teach grades 6 through 12. She started managing a very small program that's grown every year in order to serve the community needs. And she has a passion for adult education, and she loves to help and serve people. She loves to travel and always looks for opportunities to help take care of the environment. Welcome, Sylvia. And our last but not least presenter is Christopher Sheffield. And Christopher has been with the Birdsville Adult Education for 3 years. He's a career pathway navigator as well as an intensive course and curriculum specialist. He has an MA in linguistics and a TESOL certification. Outside of the classroom, he enjoys food, music, and travel. So at this time, if we don't have any further questions from anyone about anything I've covered, we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. So welcome, Brenda.
Good afternoon. I'm Brenda Schofield, Director of Adult Education for Region 5 Education Service Center. I think this webinar series is a great idea, and like many of you, I look forward to hearing from many of you on future Manager Mondays. Today I will share some of the recruitment strategies that have been helpful for us in our programs. Our Region 5 Adult Education and Literacy Program serves the Southeast Texas workforce area, which includes Hardin, Jefferson, and Orange counties. The area has a population of almost 400,000 people, and this area includes the cities of Beaumont and Port Arthur, as well as rural areas throughout the 3 counties. Geographically, we are located 100 miles east of Houston and about an hour northeast of Galveston. Hurricane Harvey devastated this area in August of 2017. Many families in the area are still not yet back in their homes. Many are still waiting on repairs to be able to return home, and some residents had to move from the area. Many of the students and several of our staff, including our own executive director, lost their homes as a result of the flooding. The after effects of having so many displaced students and potential students has really required us to remain even more diligent in our recruitment and retention efforts. I would like to share some strategies for recruitment of students for integrated education and training, transitions, integrated EL Civics, ESL for internationally trained professionals, and other student recruitment strategies that may be used program-wide. The recruitment strategies that we'll discuss today have worked really well for us so far this program year. As a result of these strategies, we've met almost 200% of our regular IET enrollment target and over 250% of our transitions enrollment targets. We will meet and exceed our EL Civics IET enrollment target in May, and we've met over 250% of our intensive target for ESL for professionals. Our best recruitment strategy, and one of the strengths of our program, is building strong partnerships with organizations in our community. Partnerships with colleges, libraries, workforce solutions centers and boards, housing authorities, and other community partners are vital to our program's success in recruiting, enrolling, and retaining students throughout the program. We started building strong relationships with our area colleges from the beginning of our grant. All of our college partnerships grew, but our partnership with Lamar State College, Port Arthur expanded rapidly. They originally provided an ESL classroom and a regular adult ed classroom free of charge, and after a short time, they provided an office for our PD coordinator, a third classroom, and a computer lab, in addition to several telephones for our program. Our relationship grew quickly because of AEL's daily presence and interaction on campus. We found that it's a huge advantage for our ABE, ASE, and ESL students to attend classes on the college campus because it helps the students make a smooth transition to training and higher ed classes since they're already comfortable in the college setting. We have a good relationship with all the colleges in our area. Our partnership with Lamar State College, Port Arthur is our strongest college partnership, so that will be the primary focus of our discussion today. Even though we had a strong ESL and general AEL presence on the campus, we needed to build and expand our relationship with the college to help our IET and transitions programs grow. Our career navigator, Danielle Grundy, has been very successful in expanding our IETs and developmental ed programs at Lamar Port Arthur. So let's talk for just a few minutes about some of Danielle's tips that helped us build our classes with the college. The first place to start building your regular IETs and transitions classes is to research the college that you're wanting to work with and find out what programs, degrees, and certificates they offer. Get the contact information for the deans and department heads of the programs that you think would be a great fit, such as certain technical programs that you may know about or your research may find as a good program. Then send an introductory email to the deans or other administrative staff and briefly explain what your program has to offer. Sending an initial email often produces quicker results than a phone call. Include the following information in your introductory email to the deans and department heads. Introduce yourself and the program. Let your contact know that you would like to provide remediation to their students through your AEL program. Ask if any of their students require or need remediation in higher level math or reading comprehension skills to complete the program, their license, or their certificate, including a developmental education. And 9 out of 10 times, the answer will be yes, of course they do. We could all use extra help. Close your email by stating that you would appreciate the opportunity to discuss more ways that your program and the college staff can work together to help students successfully complete their area of study. This closing statement lets them know that we can help improve graduation rates and retention, which is huge for colleges. And it also states that you want to talk more in depth with them. Hopefully you will receive several replies and you can schedule a meeting. Call the individuals if you do not receive responses. If you target several staff, you will likely receive several replies. So that's always a good strategy, to target more than just one. When you're ready to conduct your first face-to-face meeting, the following tips will help you have a successful meeting. First, briefly explain your program. Brag about your program success as you explain. Then, talk about the ways that the IET and developmental ed programs benefit the college. IETs and developmental ed remediation will help the college with their retention and completion rates, and the AEL program can provide certified teachers at no cost to the college. Later, AEL can share your non-PII performance data from teams to show the student growth and success. Our colleges have used this data when they submit various grant applications. They are happy to have this information, and it's great information for them to include on their grant applications. After you've talked about the benefits of collaboration, personalize your presentation by presenting a mock proposal with a mock schedule using one of the college's existing programs. You can even estimate the value of your services for that particular class. You could include instructor salaries, supplies, technology, equipment, training cost, whatever cost you will be incurring or that you may be aware of. Provide options, but sell the option that you know works best. Explain partially integrated classes and how remediation is provided in a separate class. Explain fully integrated classes where remediation is concurrent with the actual class. Help the college staff understand how beneficial the AEL program is to their instructors as well as to their students. Deans and department heads who are former teachers can relate to how this would have been beneficial to them as educators, so they're going to like that part. And deans and department heads who are not former teachers can empathize with how difficult it is to have a classroom full of students at various learning levels, and that AEL can take the stress off remediating these students so they are successful. The strategies that I just mentioned have worked for us when we were trying to expand our IETs and our developmental ed classes. Now let's talk briefly about those expansion efforts. So, it did work, which is wonderful, and it will work. Your meetings were a success. So now what do you do? Let's talk about IETs. Prior to each semester, our Career Navigator schedules a planning meeting with all the department chairs in the technical programs. At that time, they decide which classes will benefit the most by having remediation built into the course. Almost every class that we assist with is in need of math remediation. At the beginning of each semester, we go into the college to co-enroll, assess, and assist students who are enrolled in a college technical, degree, or certificate programs and who need our assistance. This year, we're providing remediation in licensed vocational nursing, commercial driver's license Class B, child care, acoustic music, pharmacy tech, medical assisting, and welding. We'll be adding drafting, cosmetology, Microsoft Office Suite certification, and instrumentation next year. We already established our instrumentation and cosmetology IETs in place. We were ready to get going, but those classes were canceled right before they began due to Hurricane Harvey. We assist the students who are enrolled in developmental ed at Lamar Port Arthur. And for the past year, Lamar Port Arthur has added our AEL program to their developmental ed syllabus. They made it a requirement for all developmental ed students to come to the lab for TABE pre- and post-testing and for lab remediation time with our staff. Adult ed essentially runs the developmental ed computer lab. Students must complete all the requirements by the end of the semester, and when they come into the lab, our adult education staff provides remediation to the students on the topics that were covered in their class, and we also teach and reteach in small groups. We also offer TSI preparation on college campuses in addition to providing transitions and bridge classes at other AEL sites throughout our service area. As a matter of fact, just last week, Lamar Port Arthur requested that we help with additional developmental ed classes this summer. This class alone will add almost 50 students to our current enrollment, and since the class overlaps into the new program year, we'll be able to count those students in the new year. Now let's take a moment and, using the chat box, please share a recruitment tip for recruiting IET or transition students. Just share one of your own recruitment tips that has worked well for you. And we'll give you a minute to type those into the chat box.
Okay, we have some responses coming in. Our first response is recruiting from current AEL students, so word of mouth. Then we have another one that says we pass out flyers for our free TSI classes at the Central College Center in town. Very good. And then we have one that says enter the local parade and hand out flyers to attendees. We also have we meet with the deans as well as ask which of their programs struggle with retention due to remediation issues. We were able to establish IETs with most of the health profession programs. That is excellent. And a couple more, we pass out flyers for our free TSI classes at the Central College Center, and then we get referrals from the continuing education side. Very good. Thank you all for sharing.
Those are great tips. I'll take some of those home with me. Thank you so much. Let's talk about how our program at Region 5 increases enrollment through recruitment of integrated EL Civics students. Stakeholder integration and coordination are key to meeting enrollment targets and serving students who need these services. Our lead ESL and EL Civics instructor, Claudette Session, is very proactive, and Claudette searches for trainings and certification programs for in-demand occupations that the students are interested in and that the college can provide. She coordinates with the Dean of Workforce and Continuing Education, and they both work together to find ways to offer IETs for EL Civics. The Dean of Workforce and Continuing Ed also contacts us if he finds that there are certain classes that he feels will benefit and fit in with our integrated EL Civics goals. The college is very eager to help create the IETs for EL Civics because of our partnership. They value our services, and we are an asset to each other. If there's a high interest in a particular training program at the college by individuals who speak languages other than English, the dean will contact us to determine whether or not we can assist to create an IET and provide English remediation for that class. So that's happened several times, and that's a key strategy for us, and it's very helpful to us in our program. And currently, word of mouth is a great recruitment tool, always has been. When students tell their friends about the great opportunities that AEL offers, it inspires them to enroll as well. So just hearing it from their friends and their acquaintances has just been a huge help to us. Word is spread quickly among acquaintances of our current students, and we're offering these integrated EL Civics IETs this program year. We're offering certified nurses aid training. We have a licensed vocational nursing IET with our EL Civics program. And one of our co-enrolled LVN students actually won the Taylor ESL Persistence Award this year, so we're very, very proud of her. Another IET for EL Civics is process technology. We also have an administrative assistant IET for EL Civics. And also this is, was something that we created in addition to regular training. The students who are enrolled in the Administrative Assistant IET for EL Civics are job shadowing our Region 5 Education Service Center administrative assistants, and this is for the entire service center, not just adult ed. So they're job shadowing for the month of May, and the department that they shadow depends on the student's interest, and if they have a degree, it also depends on that degree. But of course, it just mainly depends on what their focus is. And a good example is that one of the integrated EL Civics students who has a degree in accounting from another country is shadowing staff in the business office. Administrative assistants from the departments of curriculum, technology, administrative facilities, ESL, business office, special ed, and field services will guide and assist our IET administrative assistant participants during this entire experience for the month of May. And another IET, which is Microsoft Office Suite certification, started in late April, and we're adding a bilingual carpentry and sheetrock class in June. This class is located at Lamar Port Arthur, and it's free to the participants through one of the hurricane recovery programs. Another strategy for recruiting IET EL Civics students is to identify higher level current or new students and share with them the opportunities that integrated EL Civics can provide. Also, make sure to evaluate your limited English proficient students as they make progress in English during the year. And you'll find that as they gain higher skill levels, those students will be able to transition into integrated EL Civics IETs. The college will require your students' transcripts to be in English before they will be accepted into long-term training. So you might consider using your IET EL Civics funds to pay for translation of students' college transcripts from other countries, if that's in your budget and if the student need is identified. This is another incentive to participation. However, we do only provide this for students who've shown dedication through class participation. It's not something that we can provide immediately for someone who is just enrolling into our class and that we have no history with that student, since there is a pretty good expense there. Also, lower level internationally trained professional students can transition into the integrated EL Civics program as they acquire higher skill levels. Those students can make that transition during the program year if their skills are high enough to enter an IET. However, they can't be counted toward both targets in the same program year. And also, we try to always connect our internationally trained students' degrees to similar EL Civics IETs when those IETs are available and whenever possible. Let's talk about some strategies for recruiting internationally trained professionals who need English remediation. Specifically target internationally trained professionals in your advertising. We also analyze our student enrollment forms to identify potential ESL for professional students. During orientation, you can evaluate whether or not a limited English proficient student may be interested in, qualify for, or can benefit from either integrated EL Civics programs or the English for Internationally Trained Professionals program. It's been our experience that most degree professionals are eager to participate in either of the two programs. And we're very proud of our student we're very proud of our ESL and our internationally trained professional students. And as a matter of fact, Region 5 Education Service Center recently hired 3 of our ESL professional students for 9-month, 40-hour per week positions with the Hurricane Harvey Recovery Crisis Counseling Program. They are doing a fantastic job, and they're among the best staff that we have in that program, as I've been told by the program director. So we're really, we know that this program does work. And let's talk for just a moment about some additional strategies that can be used to recruit ESL students at any level. Of course, use bilingual recruitment materials. Set up a voicemail box on a phone line specifically for incoming Spanish-speaking callers if you don't have a full-time bilingual person to answer the calls. Use that phone number in your bilingual advertising and assign bilingual staff to monitor those messages and return those calls at least daily. Do the same for other languages if you have the appropriate bilingual or multilingual staff available. You can also set up a specific email address so potential ESL learners can send inquiries in Spanish or other languages for which you have an interpreter. Include the email address on all your bilingual flyers and have specific staff assigned to answer those inquiries daily. Keep the website updated and consider adding a bilingual or a multilingual link to specific classes. We work with our ESL students to develop a recruitment script for Spanish radio stations and utilize students to recruit their peers by appearing in person or recording a public service announcement for the radio station. Another strategy is to invite outstanding students to attend recruitment events with you and your staff and to tell potential students about how well they like the program, how it's been helpful to them, their success so far, and so on. Another strategy that we have found has been really helpful is to use distance learning software as an incentive for students to complete ESL boot camp. You can name this class anything you want. It doesn't have to be boot camp. We advertise that individuals who complete the first 15 hours of ESL boot camp get free access to a Rosetta Stone software virtual seat, which is a $165 value. We have very few ESL students who leave class after boot camp, and they all love the 24-hour access of the distance learning products, which of course they can use whether they stay in class or whether they become total distance learning students. This strategy aligns with the distance learning policy, but it's presented in such a way that students feel they've earned a reward for the participation in the program. Now, once again, let's use the chat box to take a moment to share some of our recruitment strategies. So, using the chat box, share one of your own tips for recruiting integrated EL Civics students or students that you may have in your intensive target, such as ESL for Professionals or any of the other intensive targets. So we'll give you a moment to type those into the chat box.
We also want to ask at this time if you have any questions about any of the content that Brenda has covered, if you will ask your questions at this time. Lori says that most of her bilingual staff actually goes out to events to recruit.
That's a fantastic strategy.
Carrie adds that their bilingual staff presents at small groups and local nonprofits. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on in the interest of time.
Okay, in addition to specific strategies that I've shared with you, we've put together a list of some general strategies that have worked really well for our program. And one of those things is modified managed enrollment. It really works best for our programs. It doesn't work for everyone, but it's been really helpful to us. New students can register at least twice each month and usually once a week with few exceptions. Our classes do run year-round, and we have found that that really works well. And classes that begin in May or June and end later in the summer are good recruitment strategies because they really can give a boost to enrollment at the end of the year, and those same students generally will re-enroll for the new year. So it's a great bonus to be able to do that. We've already talked about diversifying your class locations, which is a great strategy. We have multiple classes at 20 different sites, and we only pay a nominal fee for rent at one of those sites. We also make sure that we locate our classes near public transportation. And one of the strategies that we found this year that's a little bit time-consuming, but it's a lot of fun and it's a great recruitment strategy, is to create some recruitment videos and presentation with a program called Powtoon. It's free and it appeals to everybody. It's a lot of fun. I've included the web address on the PowerPoint. If you're interested, I can send you a sample of a Powtoon that we created. Just send me an email, and my email will be at the end of the presentation. Of course, encourage your students to bring their friends to enroll in the class, and maybe even have a contest to see who can enroll the most students. Offer students the opportunity to distribute flyers to their family and their friends, their churches, get prior approval, and set up some recruitment days on the college campuses, the housing authorities, or any location of your choice that you think might be a good location. Provide some donated pizza and soft drinks. We've done that a couple of times. That really works really well. You can bring various games such as washers. We've done that. We've had a limbo contest. I did not participate in that particular contest, but it's really fun on the campuses and on where you're recruiting young people. It puts you and your program in a positive light to all the potential students. We also use stationary billboards and digital billboards, and also consider advertising, having a bilingual advertisement on those billboards. Space on the digital billboards is relatively expensive, but it reaches a huge audience, so it's still a good bang for your buck. You can place multiple ads to target any number of a wide variety of student populations when you just with a 30-second billboard ad. But in our area, regular stationary billboard ads cost about $500 a year, so they're a really great investment for us. And the last tip is just to be sure that your AEL staff is present as much as possible everywhere that you can attend job fairs, hiring events, college orientations. If there's something in your community that you know will draw a large audience or that will attract your student population, try to be there and try to make sure that you have bilingual or multilingual staff present if possible. And I wish you happy recruiting. I wish you the very best of success in your recruitment and retention efforts. And please feel free to contact me if you need any other information or if I may help in any way. And thank you so much for your kind attention today.
Thank you so much, Brenda. At this time, we're going to move on to our next presentation. By Sylvia Uralugo and Christopher Sheffield. Welcome.
Sylvia Uralugo from Burrillville ISD.
And I'm Christopher Sheffield. I'm the Career Pathways Navigator.
We will start with some background information, then talk about how we recruit for the specific courses. Later, we will discuss how our relationship with our partners work and how they help us recruit. And finally, we will talk about some specific things that we do to help with retention.
Okay, so just some information about our program. Like I said, we're Birdville ISD, Adult Education. Our main sites are in Haltom City, Hurst, and Watauga. These are these are suburbs in North Fort Worth. We have around 500 participants in traditional to intensive courses, and we're a member of the Tarrant County Adult Education Literacy Consortium. Program providers who are also in the consortium are Arlington ISD, Arlington Public Library, Fort Worth ISD, and Tarrant County College. Our grant recipient is Workforce Solutions of Tarrant County, and we work closely with them.
Each subgroup can best be targeted with different strategies. In this section, we will focus on selective targeting strategies because we believe if you offer the right courses to right students, retention will flow naturally.
The first course we're going to start off with is our high school equivalency. So students who are preparing for the HiSET or GED. Working through an ISD, we think institutional visibility works best for our program. So making sure high schools and the wider community in the district know that we're present and active. For this course, we use a more passive recruitment strategy. We feel that this population knows that these resources are available and has an idea of where to look for them. But it's also still a good idea to have a good relationship with teachers and school counselors to help with direct referrals if a teacher or counselor sees that a student will need us and our resources.
English as a second language. Our multicultural staff is a great asset. Don't be afraid to recruit outside of norms of your staff. Being able to engage with students in their language during recruitment helps. It is important to advertise to the students because many of them don't know what these programs exist. Grocery stores are some of the places that we take flyers. In apartment complexes, laundromats, restaurants, K-12 schools with bilingual programs, libraries, and basically we put flyers in the entire community.
For ESL for professionals or internationally trained English language learners, it's a little bit different. So we think students know that the programs exist, but maybe they've overlooked community ESL programs because they think that they've learned all that they could from them or think that they're too advanced. So really letting them know that we have these intensive courses now that may be helpful to them is really a benefit. So for ESL for professionals, we think inter-program recruiting works best. At registration, we screen for students with degrees. We make a waiting list, and once we're ready to open the course, we already know the students who could benefit from the course and who qualify. Students have to be of a proficiency that will allow them to understand the content of the course. So if a student is in one of the intermediate or lower level classes, we keep them on the waiting list until next time. Also, we think referrals from students in classes are productive. So before registration opens, we go to our classes and let students know that we're opening this ESL for professional class and that they can invite their friends and family if they think they'll qualify.
For our transitions, we offer this class as an extension to other courses with our partnership with Tarrant County College. We offer this course as a variety of ways, from offering it as a short-term course, 24 hours, basically if the transition class takes 24 hours, pulling students from their traditional classes for a portion of the class, whether that is an hour and a half or 1 day a week, or we place them in a traditional course or offering at the completion of the traditional course, as an alternative to transition courses focused on college preparation. Programs can offer bridge courses which prepare students for training programs like IETs. Both courses can be offered by a program independent or as a partnership.
So for our integrated education and training courses, either IET or IETL Civics, students are advised of training opportunities at testing if they make scores high enough to qualify for the programs. Maybe for the Best Plus test in particular, if we see their score at the end of the test, we'll go ahead and give them information about the training opportunities that we offer and give them information about who to contact and when they can expect to hear more for enrollment or registration for those in particular. We think it's really important that when training opportunities come up, targeted sites are visited to kind of remind the students about the training and to discuss any questions that maybe the teachers don't have the insight to. Also, we think it's important for the IETs to keep in mind that recruiting windows can be negotiated to allow for newly enrolled students to complete prerequisite hours. So often when the training partner gets all the contracts signed and is ready, they're really eager to start, but go ahead and letting them know that maybe if we have 3 weeks to recruit from not only our program but outside as well, it might be the easiest way to find the most suitable students for the program.
Workplace literacy. For workplace literacy courses, we partnered with the company to hold a 1-week-long drive in which we sign up students during breaks and shift changes. This is also a good opportunity to advertise about their courses offered by your program for students who are not able to attend courses at the time offered at their workplace. Sometimes they need to know what else what other programs they can reach with the same partner.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop for a second and ask a question. So, what's your program's most effective recruiting strategy? So go ahead and just use the chat box and let us know. Also, if you have any questions about what we've talked about, feel free to ask those now as well. Definitely, I see that. Our students, they spread the word. Yeah, word of mouth is definitely great for a lot of our students, especially our traditional students. Yeah, do you know of any resources? I just caught one to help with multilingual flyers. Definitely. So we have a pretty multicultural staff in our office, so that's really helpful. But you know, when there's a language that we don't have, we've actually used some online communities, and this is kind of a good strategy for the age that we're in now. We've actually reached out to Reddit. There's a translators subreddit, and it's kind of just a message board online where people discuss things in general, but for this specific part of the website, if you upload a document, people in their free time will help translate it. This has been really helpful for Vietnamese. That's the one language where we have lots of students and a pretty large population in the area. We just don't have anyone in our office to help with that. So researching Reddit, if you just Google Reddit translator, it'll take you to that page. You can upload a document, and these nice people who have this hobby of translating can help you out there. I see another. We attend health and job fairs and give out information on classes. Definitely. I think that's a really good strategy. Getting into the community and being a part of it, definitely. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part. So in this section, we're going to talk a little bit about our partnerships, how we choose partners, and what we do to maintain them.
General strategies and types of institutions. When partnership with an organization, setting up an understanding of the mutual benefit of our program, providing a service in these institutions creates a buy-in for support. We have never been turned away by a potential partner because most of the organizations have the same end goal as us.
For our first specific organization, we mentioned before that we work primarily in a school and out of a high school and in school districts. So to start a partnership with a school, start by talking with the principal, maybe reaching out by email with some of the instructions we saw from Brenda before, or a phone call as well. We like to not just work in schools, but to work with them. So being present at events like open houses and fairs can help with visibility and recruitment. Reaching out to teachers in specific programs can be helpful as well. So if you think about if you have bilingual programs for children in your area, or if there are high school classes that maybe offer second language courses geared towards heritage speakers or native speakers, those kids in schools may have parents at home who can benefit from these programs. For us, we feel that partnerships with ISDs are a really good source of traditional students.
With the public libraries, I can tell that the public libraries, we have a special love for the libraries because they help us a lot. Our organization shares a similar fundamental mission. As an extension of our services to our students in the library, taking advantage of their resources also help them with their goals. Enrolling students in library cards programs, encourage them to check out books or use available technology, help the library meet their own targets of community assistance. Libraries are great resources for students in intensive courses.
Now, partnering with businesses is a special kind of situation. To get started with a larger company, maybe talk to the head of HR, or in a smaller mid-sized company, maybe talking to the manager or the owner if you have access to them. Reaching out to organizations who have offered educational opportunities before can be helpful. We're currently working with Tyson's Foods for our workplace literacy program. Here we think it's crucial to discuss the mutual benefits of the partnership. These businesses, of course, are focused on production, which is understandable, but letting them know that our services will help them have better rounded employees and create a different kind of environment there is really helpful. In our situation, we've learned that factories, at least, offer students who need traditional courses. So right now we're offering an EL Civics course as well as 2 ESL courses. Also, if the business offers any incentives to students, be sure to advertise that during recruitment. Tyson Foods in particular, they incentivize the EL Civics class by being able to reimburse the students for taking the citizenship test. And also they have agreed, at our location anyway, to give students a $100 bonus when they complete 60 hours. So don't be afraid to advertise those during recruitment, and also ask HR if there are any incentives that they may be willing to offer.
Community organizations. Churches are also one of the good sites that we offer in our program. These institutions may find it difficult to add such services on their own because of staffing or materials. So one of the things that we need to do is we have to decide which students you want to target. While ISDs are good for evening classes and libraries for afternoon, in our experience, churches tend to have space in the morning.
So when partnering with training providers, there are a lot of things to consider. In our consortium, the Workplace Board, as the grant recipient, contracts with local credential training providers in in-demand fields or target occupations. Now, if you don't work so closely with your workforce board, that's okay. Still reach out to them. They have the information about the in-demand fields and target occupations in the area. So after finding the types of credentials you can provide, maybe survey the students to see what they'd be interested in before actually building the course. Meet with the training provider to negotiate terms of the contract, including costs, schedules, and expectations. Also, we found that it's important to be sure to reach an understanding about the required contextualized support classes. The policy letters say that the students must be co-enrolled in the contextualized support class and the training program, and that may interrupt the schedule that training providers are used to. We'll let them know that this extra support will help with success for their program and ours as well. So now we're just going to take one moment. So what's a strategy you'd like to try in your program to help build partnerships? Maybe one you've thought about but haven't quite used yet. Also, feel free to ask any questions for us that you've had about the material we've covered so far. And we'll give you a little more time if you might need something there. What are some good practices for going from referrals from a partner to actual enrollment? That's a really good question. So like Sylvia mentioned before, we have a pretty good relationship with our libraries. So with our libraries and all of our partnerships, really, we make sure that the people answering the phones have enough information about our program to either refer students directly to us, or in the case of the library, they're really nice and they're willing to actually set up a waiting list for us. So they'll record the names of the students and they'll pass along to us when we're ready for registration. So that's really helpful. For the students from our library site, once we get the waiting list that the library has taken for us, we'll contact the students individually and kind of invite them to registration when it opens.
Okay. Community events are really good activities that we can attend, and you can find some relationships or partnership with people that offer services in the community.
Definitely. Being part of the community is always a good, helpful strategy. We're going to go ahead and move on. So we're going to end with some takeaways. First, we're going to talk about some specific things that we do to keep our students, and then we're going to talk about some things that we do to maintain our relationships with our partners. So first, what we do to keep our students. So from registration onward, we're open with our students about how our program works, letting them know that it's grant funded, that after 40 or 60 hours they'll be retested, and information such as that. We also are open about the fact that the students have access to their data. All right, so I think it's really helpful when students see the score that they make for their baseline and they're aware of that. They'll often want to know what they get on their post-test, and that's a good way of kind of encouraging them to continue on in the program and to stay motivated. We also approach student barriers with understanding and assistance when possible. If at registration a student tells us that out of the 4 days that we have class, they can only come to 3, if we think it'll still be a benefit to the student, we try to make sure that they can get into the class. Similarly, if a student says that they have to be out for 3 weeks, we let them know at the start that that's okay. They can always come back to the program. Related to that, we monitor student data often. So if we notice a student has had really good attendance at the beginning and they've kind of fallen off and they're not showing up quite as much or have altogether stopped, we'll call them. So a couple times a semester we actually dedicate some of our time in the office to just calling students who have stopped coming and inviting them back. We think that's a really good approach. We're open to feedback as well and offer real solutions when possible. We like to give a survey towards the beginning of the course and also at the end. After the survey at the beginning, we'll talk with teachers about what the students have said, and if there's a consensus of the suggestions, we'll try to make those happen as soon as possible. Say students in a class particularly want more writing. We'll talk to the teacher and see what we can do to have more writing in the class as soon as possible. Also, we have an open door and inbox policy in our office. Every night, when students are coming to class during break, they'll stop and come in and talk to us. And we think this is really helpful for creating that environment where students not only want to come, but want to stay in our program.
I'll go back. How our partnership works. It never hurts to reach out for potential partners. Make sure that your program is doing what it can to support the goals of your partners. It is important to form meaningful partnerships which work for your program. If the courses you want to offer aren't being filled by the students you have, it might be time to consider a new partner or a different time. It is always good to try different times, different partners, so until you find out which of the programs work better for you. And we're at the end.
Looks like
Do you
we're
have any
at
questions?
1 o'clock. So, yeah, if there are any questions, go ahead and post those there. Anything that we've covered or any last-minute things you want to talk about? You can kind of come up with those. I kind of want to read some of the comments we have. So Christina Mason, who works at our workforce board, she mentioned that Tarrant County also has a call center as a centralized referral and wait list, which is really helpful and comes in handy as well. Also, someone asked, do you find any particular course schedule or locations are better for different populations of our students? And we definitely do. So we found that in the mornings and afternoons, we have a lot of students who are advanced and can qualify for our intensive courses. In evenings, we tend to have more students who are there for traditional courses. Libraries are also a really good place for our intensive courses, just because a lot of the maybe degree professionals may be going there during the daytime to volunteer or to research, and they're familiar with using the resources. So finding them there is helpful. Okay. I'm not seeing anything else in the chat box, so if there's nothing left, we want to go ahead and
finish our presentation. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you for letting us be a part of this series of Manager Mondays.
Thank you so much, Brenda, Sylvia, and Christopher, for participating or for presenting here at our Manager Monday. Does anyone have any other questions? Well, Christina says that Tarrant posts classes as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Robin says, fantastic job, very useful information that we all can use. Thank you so much. And I wanted to mention that the PowerPoints will be made available after the post-production process, because there's a process that we have to go through to make them accessible. So after that, they'll be posted in the administrator community of practice. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you again, Brenda, Sylvia, and Christopher. Great job. Great information, wonderful information, and we truly appreciate all of your hard work to share your information with everyone.
Thank you, Robin and Olga. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the room. Thank you all.
Hey, hang on just a minute. I want to. Is everybody gone?
No, everybody's there.
Sylvia.
I'm here, but I can hang up. This is Brenda. I'm here, but I can hang up.
No, I think she wants you to stay on so others.
I just want to tell you all it's fantastic. Listening from this side, you all did so well. And did you see that in the chat pod, all the accolades that you got? Very useful information, very helpful. Thank you so much. So, I mean, I as a new manager, I could take this information and go out and recruit students. I mean, it was so practical, so pragmatic. It was fantastic. Just laid it out for me in a perfect way.
And Sharon has a question about how long does it take to post a webinar. Sharon, it takes a little bit of time because there's a process that it has to go through before it gets posted. So it could be 1 to 2 weeks and possibly a little bit longer, depending upon how many other webinars are in the line to get processed. So it could take maybe 1 to 2 weeks or more. But thank you for asking.